Hi everyone, this is Karak from ACG, and today I'm bringing you the review for Resident Evil 0 HD Remaster, because apparently Capcom didn't want you to think you were getting the GameCube game and worried you'd shove it into whatever system you were buying. Listen, unwieldy name aside, Resident Evil 0 tells the twisted tale of the Resident Evil world prior to that original Resident Evil game. You get to run around with the lethal weapon-like team of Rebecca, the plucky police officer, and her trusting ways, as well as Billy Cohen, a convicted army lieutenant who supposedly murdered 23 people, but Rebecca instantly teams up with him because that's how comedy is created. Let's see if Rebecca gets eaten, or if Billy kills her, or hey, if they get out alive. As always, if you like the video, maybe subscribe. So here's the review for Resident Evil 0 HD Remaster. The world's worst chess set, Samael from Hellboy going all egg-laden spree, and everyone's favorite bedtime moment, giant friggin' spiders. Graphics? Hey, they're up first. You know, it won't be mistaken for a 2016 game, or even a 2014 game, but Res HDR, as I'm now calling it, brings some excellent options to the table nonetheless. Like, it's got that 4:3 aspect ratio that can be chosen for purists, but switching out to 16:9 is not only surprisingly apt at displaying the game using a panning motion across the backdrops, but actually adds a good deal to the presentation. The lighting model has been redone, and its use of bloom and transparencies in various areas throughout the game do a good job elevating the graphical representations throughout. Outstanding sequences like the train rooftop walk that happens at the beginning of the game really top off the improvements you see throughout the presentation here. Now, that doesn't mean work has been done everywhere. Billy's arms still look like they could cut you if you walk past the TV too fast, and most of the modeling improvements are actually done on textures, and of course, not on the tank-like animations of the characters. However, above and beyond the touched-up backgrounds and new effects, Res HDR continues to delight with outstanding, absolutely short-spattering lists of nope creatures. These are creatures where you walk into a room, see them, soundly decide that starving to death in the room right next to them is a much better alternative than ever getting near them. I mean, seriously, the giant caterpillar's pretty creepy, but when you walk into a room and see what looks like a half dog, half spider clinging to a wall, it's a little bit unnerving. And of course, let's not even mention the monkeys. In fact, as with many of the other Resident Evil titles, many times it's everything but the zombies that add to the uniqueness of the game, and that's where the strengths show here. Also, unlike some other games that I'm playing right now, the plain and simple fact is this is actually pretty well optimized and runs really well regardless of whatever resolution I was trying to get it at, 1440p or 1080p. I would say as a title, it's pretty good with a balance of improvements and some rock solid sameness throughout. Sound, music, and voice.
You're under arrest.
No thanks, Dollface. I've already worn handcuffs.
I could shoot, you know.
And of course, sound is up first. I've been married many years, so I'm accustomed to disappointment with nothing that I can do about it, but damn, you really do forget just how barren these titles are in environmental sound. Some exists in various levels, like the train, but for the most part, there isn't much, and what's there still gives you a barren feeling regardless. There just isn't any kind of blanket of sound like you would expect, and instead it's more punctuations and subtle moments. It's not terrible, but this game could have been awash with audio color to really slam home that atmosphere, and instead many times it sounds like someone put the microphone against a white noise machine and everyone slapped themselves on the back and celebrated just how smart they were. In the end, I would have loved far more ambient atmospheric sound, especially in any way compared to other titles in this series. Now, music. Ambient and throbbing, which sounds dirty but isn't, is the name of the game here, and those looking for a more classical score need to look elsewhere, though those tracks in here sort of do exist. There are moments of action with full bits of musical scoring, but much of the time it's like listening to a seashell on the beach. It's typical blanket musical stylings with lower, disconcerting themes, but being honest, I found myself overly tired of it after a short period of time. It's just too much, and without the added excellence of a large-scale environmental audio like I spoke before, it can feel like you're listening to someone who just learned how to use a new synth in Fruity Loops. Now, again, that's a decision. There's nothing amateurish about it. That's what they chose to do. However, for me, I would have liked those tracks that I know exist here and exist in excellence, because there's some really good classic tracks here. I just wish they showed up more often. But here's the cool thing. For those of you who are returning to this title, it's going to be good. For those of you who are new to it, it might appear just a little bit average. Voice. Now, let's be honest, listening to Resident Evil voices is like listen to a John Hamm and Mickey Rourke mumble off. Half the time you don't understand what's being said, and when you do, it sounds hilariously off-note, and it probably doesn't make sense anyway. Well, that's what we have here. The cheesy overreactions and innocence of some of the characters intermixed with the almost oozing mysterious ego of the main bad guy fits in perfectly with Resident Evil, and we probably wouldn't want to change it. It won't make new fans unless they know what they're getting into. It's a direct copy of the voices in the original, so if you're cool with that, then you're in really good shape. If you're just coming to this as a new title, it's best to go rent the movie Hawk the Slayer and watch that first. Anything is better than that. The moment you do that, you come back to this, hey, it's going to be like Shakespeare. I would say it's exactly what you expect for a Resident Evil game. Now, of course, gameplay. The story goes a little something like this. You're Bravo team, you're bored, so you go out and investigate a series of man-on-man chewing incidents, which is another way to say cannibalism. When you arrive, you're Rebecca, your plucky 12-year-old looking but actually over 20 character. You immediately find Billy Cohen, say screw the warnings that he's a killer, join up with him, you get attacked by singing High Priest of Bugs, and you end up on a train which starts down the track full speed, and that begins your adventure. So yeah, it's pretty much typical Resident Evil. And though Res HDR plays somewhat the same as other Resident Evil games, it also throws a couple cool bits like a new alternative movement mode, which takes into account more modern game design and makes the title far slicker in its movement and presentation throughout. Old fans may continue to use the tank controls as they are, but I really felt that the alternate control just helped the game out on all levels. Originally, this game brought two huge changes to the mix. First, you could control two characters, and you really had to many times to perform the answers to the puzzles. And they also removed the storage boxes, and instead you just run around game levels like you have palsy, dropping shit everywhere, and then returning later when you need it. It's a bit cumbersome, but so were those damn boxes, so it's just going to be up to you on which you decide you like better. One thing I did like is that the map within this game tracks everything, including items you've dropped, so it's hard to dislike it in its first attempt. And controlling two characters is enjoyable, even for a title this old, and though some of the typical Resident Evil, who the hell made this puzzles do exist for the most part, you can work through them with a small amount of thought and perhaps switching out characters once or twice to do so. As this is Resident Evil, apparently the people who build everything in this world think it would be fun to drive people insane, and so the game moves you through various locations, and just like prior and later titles, uses a mix of puzzles and locked doors to filter the story and the action. The interplay here of locations and puzzles is fairly well done, though as with all Resident Evils, many answers are the kind that boggle and have no real sense of intelligence. Sadly, one place where this game takes a shot to the nose are the environment's really jumbled designs. Though it still plays excellent at times, some rooms can absolutely be confusing unless you rub up against everything like you need some alone time, only to find out that a slim path to a new location exists in that room. That being said, the new control scheme really works well. Controlling two characters is really a treat, and despite some of those location issues, they're beautiful to play and explore, and in the end, the spirit of Resident Evil is pretty much here. And without a doubt, this combat actually worked fairly well. I wasn't having any issues controlling the character, and that alternate scheme, once again, you guys should give it a chance. Fun factor. Listen, this is a rehash of a prior title, and without any real overall game changes beside the controls and the aspect ratio and some graphical treats. It really is a gift for those who liked the older RE titles and want to re-explore them in a new and far more eye-pleasing manner. For those coming into this for the first time and wanting to experience it, at times it can be decidedly droll working through some of the same areas for the third time or going on a very long walking stretch to move one item from one place to another. But guys, that's Resident Evil in a nutshell. As you guys know, I rate games on a buy, wait for sale, rent, or never touch it again rating scale. This is a buy at the price. I feel that for fans who are just getting into it, the game actually does offer enough gameplay chops to be enjoyable. It's not scary. Resident Evil hasn't been scary in a long time, but it's enjoyable and it's creepy. For people who already know that they like the game, this is a way to see it. With those original GameCube attributes absolutely blown up, look in HD, and an illumination system that's far better than it was in the original title. So I think it's worth it getting it. Anyway, that's it for me. I hope you guys liked the video. If you did, hit thumbs up. If you didn't, hit thumbs down. Maybe share it if you liked it. Whatever. Peace out.